So we have paper 2 for January 2021. January 2021. Yeah, it's January. I wrote it already. It's 2021 January. Yeah. So it's which type of unemployment occurs when the demand for a product is online? It's only at certain times of the year. If it is structural, it is based on reduction in demand or reduction in what a country produces. That is structural. Or based on your production, the country's production has fallen, based on maybe demand within outside. They are not supplying as they used to supply. So that is structural unemployment. Cyclical, it occurs when we are talking about demand within the economy. Demand within the economy is falling. So cyclical is basically for demand, a fall in aggregate demand within the economy. It brings about cyclical unemployment. Seasonal is when employment or when you are being employed at a certain period within a year, which is what we are talking about here. And for voluntary unemployment, it occurs when an individual, willingly doesn't want to work. That is voluntary. I think it's clear. So the answer is A. No, the answer is C, seasonal. Thank you. So go to question 2. Question B. Which one of the following term refers to tax on imported goods? Tax on imported goods is tariff. Clear. B. Yeah. Any question about that? Yeah. We'll move on to C. Yeah. For question C. For question C, it said, what is meant by the term recession? When we talk about recession, we're talking about a fall in a country's GDP in 2 consecutive quarters. A fall in a country's GDP in 2 consecutive quarters. That is what recession is. Is it clear? Yeah. So go to D now. Dumping. When you talk about dumping, dumping is a situation whereby the price of imported goods are sold lesser or lower than the cost of production. They are imported goods and they are being sold at a lower price than the cost of production in a country. So when you buy these imported goods, you brought them into this country, but the cost of production for such products is higher. They are not supposed to sell at a lower price, but when you sell at a lower price, that is dumping. This sometimes occurs when the government of that country, the importing country, the country that you imported from, subsidize for their own firms or producers. So most of the time, the cost of importing is cheaper because the government of that country has subsidized for the producers in that country. That was the case of India and Australia that we talked about. The Australian in the World Trade Organization, where Indian government subscribed for their sugarcane farmers.
Oh, yeah, we did it last.
Yeah, we did it in the previous class.
Yeah.
So that is what brings about dumping. So the cost of producing sugarcane is higher, but the government has subsidized for it, which makes it to become cheaper for the Indian farmers. As a result, they become more competitive. They become internationally competitive. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So that's about dumping. I think the question about dumping is clear now, right? Going to go to question E. Calculate the fiscal surplus or deficit in Indian rupees crore for Indian in 2019 and 2020. For fiscal surplus or deficit, it's always revenue minus expenditure. Clear? So here the revenue is 2.080 minus the expenditure, which is 2784200, which is negative minus 703. Clear? So move on. Question F. Using the diagram below, draw the likely effect of the introduction of subsidy on the equilibrium price and quantity of new cars for families with 3 or more children. Label in the new curve the new equilibrium price and the new equilibrium quantity. First, when we talk about subsidy brings about a reduction in the cost of production. So a reduction in the cost of production will increase supply. So the supply curve will shift rightward from S to S1. As a result, the equilibrium price, we're going to have a low equilibrium price at P1. Did you get it?
Yes.
So we're going to have an increase in the quantity supply of cars, shifted to the quantity supply, that is from QE to Q1. Bringing about a shift to the right for the supply curve from S to S1, movement along the demand curve to reduce the price from PE to P1. So there's going to be expansion in the demand curve. Expansion in the demand curve. Is it clear? And expansion brings about what? A lower price. Any question about that? Okay, so we'll move on to question G. Are you there? He said, the UK, there's a case study there. He said, explain one benefit to the UK government of providing parks. So I wrote, the advantage of national park is that it could increase the export of services. The export of services. You don't know, export of services, yes. Tourists will come in. That's export of services.
Okay.
So I wrote, the advantage of national park is that it could increase the export of services as it can serve recreational purpose. Based on the data, over 19.17 million tourists visited in 2018. So if government spend more on this, it will increase more tourists. So that's what we call export of services. So it will improve the balance of payment, current account. Clear?
Okay.
So go to question.
So I don't get export of service. I don't know what you mean
Oh,
by
I see.
that.
Export is selling goods abroad, right?
Yeah.
To foreign customers.
Okay.
That is for goods, physical.
Yes.
But when tourists are coming into your country,
Okay.
you are selling services to them.
Okay.
That is export of service.
That's okay. This is related to is this only related to tourism or is it anything else?
Foreigners banking here is export of services.
Okay.
In as much as you are selling to foreigners, it's export of service.
Services. Not
Yes.
goods, always services.
Yeah, like maybe the Libyan bank having different accounts with foreigners here is export of service.
Services. Okay, good.
Is it clear?
Yes.
So we'll move on. That's one. That ends question one, I think.
Yes.
No.
Okay,
We have FDI, right?
There's one H and then
Yeah, 1H. So it said, according to the survey, with reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze the benefits of FDI for a country such as Ireland. FDI is the measure of inward investment from abroad into a country. The measure of inward investment from abroad into a country. That is FDI, which brings about MNCs anyway. You get it?
Yeah.
So FDI will increase capital investment into a country. Why will FDI increase capital investment? Most of the time when MNCs want to set up in a country, they need infrastructure, they need technology, they need equipment. So without these things, they won't be able to work well. So they might have to invest these things into that country. So there's always investment in capital goods whenever FDI wants to come into a country or whenever MNCs want to set up in a country. Clear?
Yeah.
That was the second point. The third point is MNCs will create employment opportunity in Ireland. This will increase the disposable income of the Irish and may lead to improvement in the living standards. Clear? Get your 6 points for that.
Mr. Does FDI it always results into MNCs, always.
Yeah, when you are investing in a country, at the end of it all, your investment into that country is to create a business in that country. So what will it end up with? MNCs.
Yeah.
Okay. I will have that. That ends question one. So go to question two. Are you there?
Yes.
An appreciation in the country's exchange rate is most likely to lead to which one of the following? An appreciation in the country's exchange rate will increase exports, will make exports to be expensive, and make imports to be cheaper. Listen, forget about the options now. I'm talking about the consequence of what the statement is.
Okay.
An appreciation in the country's exchange rate is most likely to lead to which one of the following? That is the option. So before going to the option, the appreciation of the country's currency will make exports to become expensive, imports to become cheaper. So if export is expensive, it will decrease exports. If import becomes cheaper, it will increase imports. Is it clear now? So the answer is D. Thank you. Question B. Which one of the following is likely to result in poverty? Low GDP per capita. High literacy rates will improve living standard because people will be able to work and become employable.
I'm sorry, I got it right, but I didn't understand.
Yeah, I'm going to explain each one.
Okay.
High literacy rates means people are educated.
Okay.
And an educated population brings about employable population. That income level will increase, poverty will reduce. Low GDP per capita. GDP per capita is GDP divided by the number of population. If a country is witnessing a low GDP per capita, it means the level of income in that country is low, and that can be linked to poverty. Clear? That's why it is B. Low rate of tax. Low rate of tax will increase disposable income. As a result, living standard will increase. People will become better. High employment rate means people have a job, and that would increase disposable income also.
Reducing poverty.
and to reduce poverty. So the answer is B. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So go on to question C. State one effect on the balance of payments of improved quality of foreign goods. If the quality of foreign goods increase in relation to domestic goods, it will bring about declined balance of payment because importation will increase more than exportation.
Okay.
There will be lower exports and there will be increased deficit in the balance of payment current account. Clear?
Increase the deficit.
Yeah, deficit will increase when you do more imports than exports.
Oh, yeah.
So just one, declining balance of payment or low export or the increased deficit, whichever one you write is fine. So we move on, right? D, what is meant? D, right?
Yeah, D.
What is meant by the word free trade? Free trade is the movement of goods and services in and out of a country without restriction. The movement of goods and services in and out of a country without restriction. Is it clear?
Yeah.
We go to E. Explain one impact of rising unemployment on consumer confidence for a country such as Argentina. A high unemployment rate will affect the confidence level of consumers as they will become pessimistic about the future. They become pessimistic. And if they are pessimistic about the future, they wouldn't want to buy things. So consumption will fall. Is it clear? And they will cut their spending. Any question about that? No. We'll move on to F. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, F. It said, explain one reason why the reduced cost of communication has helped to increase globalization. We all know what globalization is, interconnectedness between economies. So if there's interconnectedness, it means with communication, there's effective ways of communicating now. If there's no effective way of communication, there's no reduction in cost of production and communication. So I wrote, reduced cost of communication has increased globalization because there's more efficient way to communicate across different countries. There's more efficient way to communicate across different countries. So via the internet. So this means people can easily transact with one another without physically seeing each other. So as a result of that, things becomes easier to do. Transaction goes in, data can be transferred, anything can be done. Is it clear?
Clear.
So that's F. And go to G. We have the data there, and they said, with reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, assess the use of taxation to protect the environment in a country such as Germany. The case study is there. Taxation is used. So the first thing I wrote is that taxation is used to reduce activities that bring about negative externalities. There's negative externality here. And you know what negative externality is, right? The cost to the third party. So with taxation, both consumers and producers pay the full cost of consumption and production. They pay the full cost of production and consumption. That's why we have taxation. We have indirect taxes, direct taxes. Clear?
Clear.
So an increase in taxation, an increase of tax by 12% would mean that the price of meat will increase. This may reduce the demand for meat. Based on the case study there. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Good. Increased taxation will raise additional revenue for German government, which it might use in financing education, healthcare, or infrastructure. Clear?
Yeah.
However, the demand for meat might be price inelastic. As a result, increasing taxes may not reduce its consumption and pollution. That clear?
Yeah.
So we'll stop there. Yeah. Do you want me to say more about it? I can.
That writing this list will give you the format.
Yes, you get it.
Okay.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 5 points already.
Don't you need like at least 6, 7 points?
Nah, you just need 1 point for each, and it just depends on what you mentioned.
Okay.
Do you get it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the demand for meat might be priced inelastic. That's the point there. Why is it priced inelastic? If it is priced inelastic, what happens if it is priced inelastic? Consumption would not reduce. You get the point for that? And pollution, which is the main bone of contention, might not also reduce. 2 marks is done there. 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks, almost 10 marks here. And we're talking about 9 marks.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Clear.
So we'll move on. That ends question 2. So we'll go to question 3. Are you there?
Yes.
It said, what is the total amount of revenue raised by indirect taxes? Indirect taxes are taxes on consumption. And when we have two taxes on consumption, then we have the value-added tax, which is an indirect tax, and we have the tariffs, which is on importation. So these are the two taxes for consumption. Income tax is a direct tax. Business tax, which is the same as corporate tax, is taxes on profit. So they are both direct. Do you get that?
Yes.
So it is 186.3 plus 31.9, which is 218.2 billion. Clear? So the answer is C. We move on to question B. Member countries of a trading bloc agrees to trade together in agreement regarding low or no barriers. That is trading bloc. So the answer is A. Clear? Go to question C. Explain one advantage of using quotas for a country such as Brazil. Quota is a restriction in the quantities of importation, or limitation, is to say. Limitation, okay? So quota is a restriction or limitation on the quantities of importation. With restriction on the amount of ethanol being imported to Brazil, domestic producers might be able to increase their revenue. You know, because there's limit to what you can bring into Brazil. As soon as that is done, domestic producers will be able to sell theirs. So that would increase their revenue or sales. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Good. We go to question D. We have the case study there. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze why the Slovenian government might want to increase investment in healthcare. I start. Healthcare provision will bring about improvement in the provision of medicines and treatments to the Slovenian population. Clear? Good. Investing 3.5 billion in healthcare means that people will have access to healthcare irrespective of their status. This will improve the life expectancy of the population. Clear? Investment in healthcare will also increase employment opportunities in the health sector for doctors, nurses, and those who could work in the sector. Income level in Slovenia might increase as a result. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Any question about that?
Yes. No.
No, okay. So we go to question E. Are they clear, please?
No, they are clear.
Okay. We go to question E. We have Turkmenistan here, and we have the case study. So they said, with reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, assess the likely benefit of economic growth for a country such as this. What's economic growth? Economic growth implies to an increase in the country's GDP or output. Clear? So according to the data, Turkmenistan has witnessed 6.2% of growth rate, which might result into higher employment rate in the oil and gas sector. Clear?
Yes.
This might be as a result of increasing demand for workers as the economy witnesses growth. So if there's economic growth, the first thing that happens is that the demand for labor would increase. Clear?
Yeah.
Because output is growing, and for firms to respond to increase in demand, they have to employ more workers. Is it clear?
Yeah.
With economic growth, the poverty level in Turkmenistan may reduce, especially as over 50%, based on the case study, 50% of the labor force are in agricultural sector. Especially as over 50% of the labor force work in the primary sector, where there is low income. It is expected of any primary sector within the economy to have that's the lowest income sector. So with economic growth, there could be improvements in that. Do you get it? So do you get it or not?
Yes, I do.
Great. So that means the primary sector, the income might rise in the primary sector too. The primary sector, it employs 50% of the labor force through the agricultural sector, which is the primary sector. In the primary sector, the income level is low. So if there's economic growth, Turkmenistan government might increase the minimum wage paid in the agricultural sector to increase or to improve the living standards in the agricultural sector. Because when you look at 50% of the labor force in the agricultural sector, this is simply talking about poverty. Do you get it? So 50% of the labor force works in a low income sector.
Okay.
Do you get it now? Okay. However, oil and gas are non-renewable resources, which means over-reliance on it may become a problem in the future if depleted. Is it clear? Any question about that?
No.
So you get the full mark grades, 8 points already. We go to question 4. Calculate how much interest in yuan Zhang Li received in 1 year. You're advised to show your working. The principal is 8,000. That's the principal. The interest rate is 2.25%. So it's 8,000 multiplied by 2.25%, which is 180 yuan. Clear? Yeah. Question B. With reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, analyze the impact of inflation on individuals in a country such as China. What is inflation? Inflation is a persistent rise in the prices of goods and services in a given economy over a period of time. Over a period of time. Is that clear, please? So, okay, based on the data above, the inflation rate is 2.8%. That means it has increased to 2.8% according to the data, which was higher than the previous rate. We don't know the previous rate, but that is what it meant here, has increased to 2.8. So it was not 2.8 before now. So the previous rate was lower than this. Do you get that point there? So I wrote, based on the data above, the inflation rate is 2.8%, which was higher than the previous rate. This will reduce the purchasing power of households if the real wage doesn't increase. What is real wage? Real wage is the wage that is being adjusted because of inflation. Please put it in mind. Real wage. Real wage is the wage that has been adjusted because of inflation. So if the wage rate is not adjusted because of inflation, the purchasing power of households will fall. Clear? Is it clear, please?
Yes.
It may also increase shoe leather costs, as consumers may need to continue checking on the best price before they purchase. Shoe leather, your shoe. You continue to move from one shop to another, to find the best bargaining price. Is it clear?
When you're searching for different suppliers.
So that you can get the best price. Clear? So that's about inflation. There's a marker there. We have the case study here. Are you there?
Yes.
So they said, with your knowledge of, with reference to the data above and your knowledge of economics, evaluate the effectiveness of monetary policy in controlling inflation in a country such as China. First, you have to define monetary policies. Monetary policy is the use of interest rate and money supply to stabilize price, because it's inflation, to stabilize price. Clear? So monetary policy, contractionary now. Monetary policy, contractionary monetary policy can be used to reduce inflationary pressure in China with the use of high interest rates, because high interest rate is contractionary monetary policy. Are you with me? Yes. That's the first point there. An increase in interest rate will become an incentive to save. As a result, people are likely to save more than spending. This reduces aggregate demand in the economy, and as a result, will reduce the demand pool inflation. When aggregate demand falls, demand pool inflation will fall, prices would fall. Do you get it or not? So I can explain again. Are you sure? Yes. An increase in interest rate means that people will save more than spending. Saving more than spending means aggregate demand will fall. If aggregate demand falls, because aggregate demand might be the reason for inflation. So if aggregate demand falls, demand pool inflation would reduce. Clear? Clear. Good. A high interest rate is likely to bring about appreciation of the yuan, which means prices of import reduces. This may in turn reduce the cost of production, especially for those imported goods. If firms do imports for their cost of, maybe firms in China, the firms in China import raw materials to produce. So because the country's currency has appreciated based on the fact that the interest rate has increased, we meant that the price of imports reduces. And if the price of imports reduces, cost push inflation would reduce for firms that import for their production. Clear? However, increasing interest rates may bring about a decline in the balance of payments. Balance of payment current account of China, as imports may exceed exports. Is it clear? Yeah. Any questions about them? Yeah. So that ends paper 2 of January 2021. Thank you. Is it June?
It's June.
June 2021?
Yes.
No, I believe it's January. Check it out.
Okay, sure.
Is it June or January? Tell me, please.
It's June. I'll go on it again.
Okay, please do. So we can end it. Did you check? June. Thank you. June 2021. Thanks.